What's going on, everybody? HarryBolsax here, and I wanted to let everyone in on a few things that I really started to pay attention to, which helped me climb from hard stuck 0 LP Masters to top 400, 500 LP Grandmaster in less than a week. Some of these things you may already know as a Master player below, but if you consistently put all 5 of these tips in action every game, you will start to climb regardless of RNG. Let's get into it. First off, we're talking about one of the most basic fundamentals of TFT, economy. When I was struggling pretty hard in Master, I found myself taking unnecessary risks and ruining my econ for no reason. When I high rolled, I went first, and that's pretty great, but more often than not, I was just missing and losing due to normal RNG and bad economy. One of the biggest offenders by far was sending levels too early. Often I'd have enough econ to hit the next level way ahead of the lobby, but I'd only have about 10 gold to roll, and I'd just send it anyways. So my first tip is, before leveling, always take a second to do the math to see how much gold you'd be rolling after you level up. If you're looking for a specific forecast at level 7, with normal RNG it's going to take about 30 gold to roll for just one copy. Knowing this, you'll start to realize that more often than not, you could be rolling with pretty bad odds of hitting. Instead, you could consider opening up your options or sacrificing some HP to greed for some more econ. How can you decide when to do which? Well, that brings us into the next topic. Board strength is the single biggest deciding factor when it comes to winning TFT games, and this can be applied to every single stage of the game, not just the very end game. If you find yourself at any point with 3 or more pairs, aside from maybe 2-1 to 2-3, it's typically pretty correct to roll. Why? Because your board is only 3 or 4 shops away from being stable. Stable meaning if you lose, it's probably going to be a pretty good loss, but most of the time you're going to win. Knowing this gives you a fairly good idea of what you should be doing at any point in the game. If you have units to roll for, meaning 3 or more pairs, or enough gold to reasonably hit, you should roll or level and roll. If you don't, then econ up. Tip number 3 may seem like another pretty obvious one, but I got all the way to Master Plus without ever clicking on anybody else's board, and you probably can consistently hit Master Plus without scouting. But if you want to climb, learning how to scout is very important. It kind of breaks down into 2 types: scouting your matchups to see the immediate fights you have, and scouting everybody in the lobby to see their spot and win conditions. Now, every round, you should be looking at the right bar to see who you may be fighting, and look out for the big red flags in terms of positioning. What do I mean by this? Blitz hooks, Zephyrs, Shrouds, Hacker, or any big AoE CC. Think like Urgot, Fiddle, Sejuani. And then just make sure your carries don't get hit by it. Then, on the minion rounds, and maybe during Carousel when you have a little extra time, use some of it to scout through the entire lobby, checking to see what everyone's spot is. This kind of looks like checking to see what comps everyone is playing, how much econ they may have. Make sure to count their level plus how much gold they have, as well as what their win condition is. You can then use this knowledge and apply it to my next suggestion. Learning when to play for a top 2, 5, or 7 is super important for your rank climb. Sometimes you make bad decisions, whether it be on accident or you simply get unlucky, and you can't play for the win. That's fine, it happens, but you can always play for one placement higher, whether it be from positioning, donkey rolling for a top 7, or greeting econ to go for the first instead of the second. It all comes down to checking what your spot is, how much econ you have, and where you stand compared to the rest of the lobby. Remember, scouting. If you aren't playing some sort of reroll comp, and you don't have the econ to go level 9 at some point, you probably won't be playing for the first in most higher elo lobbies. You can keep this in mind the whole game when considering whether you want to send it for a level or read out the econ. So that way, you'll always have an idea of what you'll be able to realistically accomplish that game. Now, this last one may be pretty controversial, but it also had a direct correlation in my personal climb. I'm referring to checking the stats, as you may often hear some bigger streamers say. Let's take a look at what I mean here. Let's say you're in a game of TFT. you end up getting 2 hero augments for units that you can reasonably carry. For this example, I'm going to use Kaisa and Vayne. So I would come to tactics.tools here, and I would go to stats, augments, and I'd make sure I'm checking Master Plus. I would then go to, let's say, Vayne, and I see that Spread Shot, Vayne's carry augment, it's purple, has a 4.14 placement. You can check and see what it usually is, but this is just usually depending on what the spot would be for most people at that point in the game. And then you can open it up and expand to see what kind of other units people are generally playing with your carry. So you can see here people are often playing Kaisa, Ezreal, and performing pretty well with them. You can check to see if it's something that's often happening rather than a more rare occurrence by looking at the delta. If it's deeper into the negatives, it's going to be happening more often. So you can see here people aren't playing Fiddlesticks as often as they are playing Rammus, but the Fiddlesticks win rate is much higher. So that's kind of a good way to check what team comps you would be looking at with a specific carry augment, and then you can come back and compare it to something, say, multi-shot, which has a 4.13. So if you were sitting there with an average spot for both units, you could probably pretty reliably pick the Vayne carry over Kaisa, play the same units, and end up having a better return on investment. So that's kind of a general way to check the stats on different hero augments you may find. You can apply it the same to regular augments. Say you wanted to look at, I'd say a good one is March of Progress. It's a 4.77, so maybe you not to pick it often, but you can kind of expand the stats to see, oh, people are generally playing Kaisa because you're probably rolling on 7 for a pretty long time. You can compare it to something like, I don't know, maybe hit Cruel Pact on on 2-1 as well. And so you could probably pick Cruel Pact over March of Progress, play the same units, and have, a slightly better win rates compared to March of Progress. Something else you may want to keep in mind for when a new patch comes out, or maybe you're familiarizing yourself with a new set, is checking to see what units are at the top of the meta right now. So you can come to stats, units instead of augments, and it'll take you here. You can go to the list view and sort it by placement, and you'll see that in this meta currently, most of the 5 costs are winning. So it's a value meta, and you can kind of scroll down a little bit to see what 4 costs are at the top of the meta. Surprisingly, Set is up there as a front line. You see Belveth is kind of underperforming Viego and Samira, which is a little surprising to see. And you can kind of just take a look at what units are going to be the best, and then you can also expand their stats to see what items people are playing with them, what augments people are playing with them, as well as what units are often paired. Taking it. And that'll pretty much be it. You'll definitely want to take some time to familiarize yourself with all of tactics.tools, or really any stat site that you want to use, so that way you can get a better feel for what's strong if you don't have the time to play a whole bunch of games and figure it out for yourself. Well, that'll be it for me. Enjoy the rest of this Leona 3 game from my channel, and if you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to discuss below. I also stream every other day on Twitch at twitch.tv/HarryBolsax. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.